welcome to What's New at the Drugstore week. I am super excited. Today, Tuesday, Thursday, and Sunday, I'm going to be uploading a video all about a collection that is new at the drugstore. Today, it is all about what's new from Rimmel. I have an eyeshadow palette of theirs, which is a dupe for a high-end palette. I'm going to be swatching all of their new Stay Matte liquid lip colors, the shade Extension, and then I also have some face palettes and a brow product to chat about as well. Coming up from CoverGirl, we're going to be talking about their CoverGirl True Matte Foundation, I think it's called, along with their new eyeshadow palettes, lip colors, and face palettes. And then from L'Oreal, we're also going to be talking about their Paradise Enchanted collection. So each video is just going to kind of highlight the collection, chat about each item, what I think, what I like, what I don't like, and of course show you a demo so you can see it all in action, and then you can decide what you want to buy from the drugstore. It's a super fun week. I'm looking forward to it because I always love a new drugstore launch, and I kind of feel like the drugstore is stepping it up more than ever. I feel like it just keeps getting better and better and better, which is incredibly exciting. So let's go ahead and get started. Some of the items that I'm going to be mentioning today are on the new side, and then others are on the like brand new side, just showed up, but there's just products that I haven't chatted about before that I also wanted to include in the review. So the first thing I'm going to mention is it's backwards, Insta Strobing highlighter, and this one is in the shade Bronze Glow. It comes in a pink and a gold shade as well. I used this today mixed into my foundation initially, and for foundation today I'm wearing Rimmel. I figured might as well. This is the Rimmel Lasting Finish Breathable. So this is the newest foundation to their line. I reviewed this foundation along with the complimentary concealer and primer, which I will link to down below, but I absolutely love this foundation in case you missed that review. I think it's great for oily skin, has a really nice natural finish, which I know I've been talking a lot lately about having a more natural kind of skin-like finish. I think that this is absolutely beautiful. There's some deeper shades in the line than there was previously, which I'm glad to see, but if you want to know more about the foundation, I will link to that review down below. But today, because I have the Bronze Glow shade, I figured I would mix it into my foundation. I didn't see a huge impact, so I wanted to try mixing it as more of like a bronzer on my face. If I had the gold shade, I would have used it as like a highlighter, but this shade was too deep to be used as a kind of a highlighter shade, but if you do have a deeper skin, I think it could be beautiful. But I really loved using this on top of my foundation before I powdered, kind of like a bronzer, kind of like a shimmery, just the way it looked on my forehead even after I powdered. I think that it just looks so gorgeous, and I like it because it doesn't have chunks in there, because if it's something that I'm going to be putting on a large portion of my forehead or my cheeks or wherever, even to put a little bit on my nose to kind of give that sun-kissed look, I don't want it to look like straight up glitter. Obviously it's not going to look like skin because there is shimmer in there, but it has a really beautiful finish, so really liking this so far. Moving in to my brows, I made use of the Brow This Way pomade, and this is to fix and fill the brows. I used the shade Medium Brown today, and I kind of went into this thinking this is gonna suck. I'm not gonna lie, I do not like a chunky brow pencil. I don't feel like it makes sense, because if you want to use a pomade, a lot of the time you're gonna reach for a brush, in my opinion, because it is a really creamy formula. There's pigmentation in there, and you're not gonna get a natural looking brow if you just go ahead and draw this on your brow. And correct me if I'm wrong, perhaps I'm missing it, but I looked for instructions on this and on their website, and I didn't see anything on the Canadian website anyways, but I mean, I was kind of curious just to see how they had intended it. For me, I was like, let me take a brush and see how that works. So I used an angled brush, and I just kind of dipped into it. This one is brand new. I used the medium brown. This is the dark brown shade, but I actually ended up really liking it. That being said, do I think a pomade and a pencil is the best format ever? I don't know, not necessarily, but when using it with a brush, I thought it looked really great on my brows. It was natural, and what I did notice is that in a pencil format compared to some pomades that are in a pot, it definitely was a little bit stiffer, which in my opinion makes it easier to use. A pomade that is too creamy, too emollient almost, doesn't give you as much control, and in my opinion doesn't look as natural on the brow because it can get so heavy so quickly. But when I put a pencil, or sorry, what's the word I'm looking for? A brush onto the pencil, I really liked the finish. I did follow up with a brow gel. I felt like it gave a little bit of hold in there, but for me, I definitely like to go in with a brow gel because that's going to give me a little bit more of the shaping that I'm looking for. And anything else that I'm wearing that's not Rimmel or not mentioned in the video will be listed down below if you are curious. But I really did kind of judge a book by its cover with this, and do I necessarily think, again, it's the best format? No, but I love the formula and I really do like the end result, so it's kind of up to you. And I find overall Rimmel tends to be quite an affordable brand at the drugstore, and it's quite overlooked in my opinion. I don't know, you tell me, but of all the drugstore brands that are out there, I feel like I hear the least about Rimmel. They have a few products that are really, really iconic, but overall you don't hear a ton about it. And overall I've been actually quite impressed with everything I've tried today. I did a video in partnership with Rimmel late last year, which I will link to down below, which talks about some of the other favorite products that I like from them. They have a great cream contour stick, and just a bunch of really good things in the line that I kind of highlighted, including the Rimmel Wonderfully Real Mascara, which I used today as well. And I know for some of you in the United States, Rimmel seems to come a little bit later to you. It seems like they go UK, Canada, and then the United States. So if these haven't showed up, they should be showing up soon. And same for my Canadian friends. If you haven't seen them in the drugstore yet, just keep your eyes peeled for side displays and things like that. Last year, Rimmel released the Magnifies eyeshadow palettes, which were definitely nods at the Urban Decay eyeshadow palettes, their naked palettes, and I really liked those, but my only kind of qualm with them was what they kind of lacked mattes, and they also lacked the warm tones that I really appreciate, which I mean, the Urban Decay palettes did that, so that was kind of mirrored in the Rimmel palettes that they created. Then they came out with the Color Edition, which I think is beautiful. I haven't chatted about it much. I'll link to a blog post that I have down below. I actually meant to pull it for this video and kind of forgot, and now my lights and everything's all set up. But I really do like that palette. I'll link to a blog post down below along with a video of me wearing that palette. I think it's great. Cool mattes in there, great warm shades, super shimmery. And the reason that I'm doing this Rimmel video first is because I posted a side-by-side swatch comparison of a Rimmel palette to an Urban Decay palette, and lots of you were very, very curious. Only one of you guessed that it was the Rimmel palette. So if you saw that and you were wondering what it was, that's what it was. So it is the Rimmel Magnifies Palette Spice Edition. And I don't know if I'm just like out of the loop, but as soon as I saw this, it didn't occur to me that they were trying to make it a Urban Decay Naked Heat palette. But when you see them swatched side by side, it is very clear that that is exactly what they were going for. The major differences in this palette, I mean, you can see they're very, very close. The most glaring difference to me is the first shade in the Rimmel palette. It is more white, while in Urban Decay it is more of a beige tone, which I would actually prefer that more kind of beige tone that Urban Decay had for me, because I don't feel like the white really fits with this warm tone. If it was a white that had gold in it, maybe. Then the purple in the Rimmel is actually much more purple, which I actually really liked, because I liked the addition of purple to the Urban Decay palette, but it was a very deep purple, so you never really got that impact. So I really like the purple. And then the last shade is probably quite different as well. Again, it has more of like a purpley deep maroon thing going on in the Urban Decay, while in the Rimmel palette it's more of kind of a bronzy copper. But that being said, I think you can absolutely create very similar looks. You can see them swatched side by side. I have a little bit of a demo of what I did on my eyes today, so I will show you that. And then I also used it in a recent vlog, which I will link to down below if you want to see kind of a different look using the palette as well. So for this look, I started off with, the shades don't have names, so I used kind of this mid-tone brown just in the crease. Overall, I've had a really good experience with these shadows. They're a little bit powdery and you do get a little bit of fallout, so just keep that in mind, but that's no bother to me. Then I wanted to make use of this purple to see it in action, and I was actually really impressed with this purple. I find purples, no matter high-end or drugstore, can be difficult to do, and I thought this was beautiful. It blended out really nicely, and I wanted to go in with that really beautiful warm shade. I think that that is just such a great kind of terracotta kind of shade. And then on the lid, I wanted to take it a little bit brighter and used that kind of coppery maroon type shade. Super impactful. I didn't add any extra eyeshadow primer, so I did end up using one of their face palettes, which I'm going to talk about, to highlight my inner corner. To have a better inner corner shade, because you are kind of lacking that. I find the white a little bit awkward in combination with these other shades. But overall, really, really happy with the look I created. I think that the shadows are pigmented, they're blendable, really, really nice. I definitely recommend using an eyeshadow base with them. I have oily eyelids, so I use an eyeshadow base with everything, but I do feel like you really need that there to help them stick. Make sure you're building it up, and I do feel like they have good wear time, but definitely use a base. But this eyeshadow palette definitely gets a pass from me. So happy to see more warm tones entering the drugstore. I would, however, just my only critique is that and I've said this before, but I would love to see drugstore brands, if they can create great eyeshadows like they have here, create their own great eyeshadows, because they now know what's in style, what people are looking for, and they have the teams and the money to do this. So I would love to see them create kind of their own palettes like they did, I think, with the Color eyeshadow palette. The Color edition, to my knowledge, was not a dupe of anything else. I thought that was great, so I would love to see them kind of creating their own great stuff as well, now that they've kind of mastered how to make great palettes that they know people are going to want. Moving on to the rest of the face, Rimmel has had the Kate sculpting palettes out for some time. I believe it initially launched with maybe one shade, and then more shades came out that were all kind of contour palettes. So they had a highlight, a blush, and a bronzer, and I was never a huge fan of those. I found the formula on them awkward, if that makes sense. It was like when you touched it, it stiffened up and it swatched really badly, and I didn't like it on the face, and I had such a like back and forth. I was like, do I like it? Don't I like it? I'm not sure. So when they released these 3 palettes, I was super curious to try them. So there are 3 new palettes. We have the first one that I used, which is the Rimmel London highlighting palette. So you're getting 3 highlights in here, which I like the tones that are in here. I think they're really pretty. You have a more kind of pink, cool toned one. I wish there was a little warmth to it, but obviously my personal preference. You have more of a gold, and then you have kind of this almost bronzy gold thing going on here. When I touched these initially, I was worried. I felt like, again, they did, I don't know if you can see it, but it's almost like it has a hard pan, but not actually. It's like they stiffened up and the formula felt creamy, but not, and it kind of skipped when I put it on the back of my hand, and I was like, no. But when I put them on my face, I was actually pleasantly surprised. So I really, really encourage you, when purchasing products or even when looking online, obviously swatches are important. I always recommend you I look up everything multiple times before I ever make a purchase. We've put ourselves in this weird position where swatching is more important sometimes, or the main factor that kind of dictates whether or not the masses are going to be, you know, into the palette or not. I remember when the swatches first came out of the Urban Decay Naked Heat, people were like, ew, pass, not buying it. There's all this drama, and it's just like, oh my God, can we relax? Like, it's makeup. Let's have a little bit of fun. Give it a second. You've never touched it. You can't say that it sucks necessarily, right? Like, sometimes you can say, oh, I touched it and there was absolutely no pigmentation. Fine. But anyways, total rant, whatever. Moving right along, what I'm trying to get at is these swatches of this didn't do it for me, but I love the way that it looks on my face. I've used this a couple times now. I used it with my Morphe R36 brush, it is, I believe. Built it up a little bit. There's no glitter in there, just a really, really beautiful shine to the skin, and I'm so, so pleased with this. The pink shade isn't necessarily something I would reach for my cheekbones. I might put it on the lid potentially, but it is quite cool tone. So if you have a more fair, cool tone skin tone, that may be a good one for you, and you could use the others as eyeshadows. But overall, I gotta say I was actually quite happy with this, although it feels weird, it looks good. I totally skipped the bronze and blush. I was actually supposed to start with the bronzer, then blush, then highlight, but anyways, the next is the bronzing palette, and I was a little bit unsure of this because of the shades that were in here, so I was like, that would probably be the most bronzy shade for me, but it's probably too light. This one is shimmery, and that one has a lot of red in it, so I feel like this one might be good for deeper skin tones. It would be a gorgeous eyeshadow as well. So the shades in here, I was kind of like a little bit perplexed, and it's quite shimmery, but I ended up using the middle shade as a bronzer today, and I was pleasantly surprised. I thought it had just enough color to show up on my skin. If I'm much deeper, I don't know that it'll necessarily work, but I really like the finish. It's a natural kind of satin finish. There's a little shimmer in there, but nothing that shows up super boldly on the skin, and I really, really was happy with this. The formula is good. Again, it doesn't swatch great. The top shade is a little bit more powdery than the other 2 shades. It's a really unique formula. I've never touched anything like it with the exception of the other Kate palettes that had been out. But overall, I gotta say I was pretty pleased with this. I haven't made use of these 2 shades. I'm not totally sure how I would, if they would be eyeshadows, try them as blush, whatever it may be. But I gotta say I was really happy with the middle shade in here. I also really ended up liking this blush palette. Like I said, I went into all of these palettes with kind of a little bit of hesitancy based on my previous experience, but I ended up using both of these blushes. I started with this blush just to see if it would show up on my cheeks, and it did. Pleasantly surprised. Really, really loved it. The finish, it almost has a little bit, not necessarily an overspray, but I feel like there's a little tiny bit more shimmer in the top of it than there is actually in the base, which I don't mind at all. I thought that it was a really, really beautiful color, and then I went in with this blush, which I think if you have a deeper skin tone, deeper than me, I think it'll absolutely work for you, and it's gorgeous. And then these 2 could be used as blush toppers, or vice versa. If you have a lighter skin tone, you could make use of these two and then figure out how to use this one potentially on your eyes or with a really light hand. But I thought this top shade gave such a beautiful, bright flush to the skin. The middle is a little bit of an overdone blush shade in my opinion. It's kind of that peachy gold, but I guess it's working because it shows up everywhere at the drugstore. It's really pretty. It probably has the most shimmer of all the shades. I prefer the top and bottom over the middle shade just because like you've seen it a million times, but it is a really nice blush palette because I think it actually is giving you 3 separate shades that can be used as blushes depending on your skin tone. I could use all 3 of these as blushes, and I find a lot of the time with these kind of palettes I'm left not being able to use everything, so really excited that I can make use of all of them, and I think they're super pretty shades. Lastly, I want to talk about the Stay Matte liquid lip colors. These have been out for about a year now, but they have released more shades, which I think is super exciting. I felt like the initial launch was missing some nudes, and I feel like they've done a pretty good job with this secondary launch. That being said, I feel like there's a lot of very light shades. I know a lot of you are like, you can wear any lip color. Today, my friends, I will prove you wrong. The first initial shades of this are super light. Same to be said with the initial launch of the Stay Matte. They're like super concealery nudes. So I still feel like there could be a few in there somewhere in between concealer and like a rosy brown that could just act as better nude shades for a bigger variety of skin tone. I feel like there's a very big focus on these kind of concealery nudes, which I find a little bit bizarre, but maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's a thing. I have no idea. But I do overall really like the formula of these. They're super lightweight. Some of them take a little bit of building the deeper shades, so you may need to put on a layer, let it dry, and build it up. But overall, I really enjoy these shades. I mentioned the shade Scandalous in a favorites video not long ago. That one is definitely one of my favorites, but I'll put an asterisk next to the name of some of my other favorite ones going forward. And some of these, like the one I'm wearing right now, didn't look so great in the lip swatch video, but when I've paired it with a lip liner, it's definitely a nicer shade. So these dry down matte, they have a very thin formula that, again, can need to be built up, but I feel like the wear time is good. They're not super drying, and they come in a lot of cool shades. There's like a blue and a gray in the initial one. This one has some great shades. So let's go ahead and jump into the lip swatch video. So there you have it. I hope you enjoyed this roundup of what is new from Rimmel. I gotta say, I'm super happy with everything that I've tried. Let me know down below what you plan on trying if you have tried anything. And thank you so much for watching. If you'd like to connect with me, you can find me on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook at Samantha Jane YT. Stay tuned for the rest of what's new at the drugstore week, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye!